This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last classes, we have seen how to download and install Java and how to develop a Java application at command prompt. And even we have discussed how to download and install Eclipse IDE and how to develop a Java application in Eclipse IDE. So compulsory you have to practice this, and we keep on using Eclipse IDE to develop our applications. So we'll be using more of Eclipse here. Right? So anyone having any questions from the previous classes?
Yes, sir. I just referred the previous video, and that there's one small doubt that I'm having. But suppose we are writing a method in the class. So in that, but suppose we are declaring. No,
Yeah, I'm unable to hear you properly, Shiva.
can we discuss this query at the end of the session?
Okay, no worries. Or you can keep a message to me so that I'll try to answer your question. Okay, just keep the message. Now, today let us move to the next one. Let us start off with the Java basics part. So in this basics, we'll be understanding the fundamentals of programming, like the meaning of comments, keywords, variables, data types, operators, scanner class to read input from keyboard. Then we go with if statement, switch statement, while loop, do while loop, for loop, like this. So more of programming. This is the place where we increase our programming and logical skills. And from tomorrow's session onwards, I'll be start giving assignments to you, which you need to do it and submit it back. Now, let us start off with the first term here, comments. So what is this comment is like? So whenever you are writing a program, you want to elaborate more about your program, like the purpose of your program, on which date you are writing, who is writing, more elaboration of your program we want to do in our own words, that we do by using comments. And this we call documentation, documenting your program. So you can say comments are used to document a program which is ignored by the compiler. Compiler will not see what you are writing. There are two types of comments. They are slash slash is for single line comment and slash star and with again start slash is multi-line comment. Okay, like example, slash slash to find the area of a rectangle. Slash star to find gross salary and net salary of an employee. Our own words here. The first one is single line comment. This is multi-line comment. Now, the next term here is keyword. So the meaning of keyword is like when you take any programming languages like C, C++, Java, .NET, Python, there will be some predefined words which are understood by your language directly. Those words only we call keywords. These words only we call keywords. So you can say a keyword is a reserved word or predefined word whose meaning is known to the compiler directly. Compiler will understand these words automatically. In Java, all keywords are small case letters. In Java, all keywords are what? Small case letters. Like example, you can say class is a keyword, Public is a keyword, static, void, main, and if, else, switch, for, break, continue, try, catch, throw, close, finally, synchronize it, like this. Okay, there are so many keywords which we'll be discussing, almost all keywords. Now in this list of keywords, don't say etc. In this list of keywords, there is one word which is not a keyword. Can you identify that?
Synchronize.
Not synchronize it. The word which
Bro,
already we discussed. The word which already we discussed. That's the question. We
main
have already discussed that word. Main. So main is not a keyword. After main we go with parenthesis. No. So it's a method. It's a method. So this is not a keyword. The next one is variable. So what is this variable is like? What is this variable is? Whenever you want to store some data, we require the memory space. We require memory space. For example, to store roll number, we require memory space. To store name, we require memory space. To store marks, we require memory space. The name what we give to the memory spaces, these names only we call them as what? Variables. These names only we call variables. How to define a variable is like, a variable is an identifier which allocates some memory space. A variable is what? It's an identifier which allocates some memory space. Okay. Then now, when you are giving the name to the variable, we have to follow some rules here. That is rules for identifiers. Rules for identifiers. When I say identifier, it can be your variable name, it can be your method name, or it can be your class name. When you are giving the name to the variable or method or class, we have to follow some rules in Java. The rules are like, can contain, the variable name can contain capital A to Z, small a to Z, the digits 0 to 9, underscore and dollar. So these two special symbols are allowed in your variable name or method name or class name. Cannot start with a digit. A variable name cannot start with a digit in between 0 to 9 and cannot be a keyword. It cannot be a keyword. Like examples, valid identifiers like employee salary. We can use dollar symbol. Student name, roll number 123, roll number 123, like this. Invalid. Invalid are important as a beginner. Invalid identifiers are like employee name. Why this is invalid?
Space.
Space. So space is not allowed. So maximum as a beginner level, many people do this mistake. They give the variable name with spaces. Space is not allowed. 1 to 3 item number. Why this is invalid?
Starting with a
Cannot start
number.
with a numeric.
Right. Cannot start with a digit. Customer number. Why this is invalid? Hash is not allowed, right? So only two special symbols are allowed, underscore and dollar only. Hash is not allowed. Then while. Why this is invalid?
Keyword.
Keyword, right? Cannot be a keyword. Cannot be a keyword, right? These are the rules. The next one is very, very important. This is the major thing of today's class, data types. What is this data type? Is like when you are allocating some memory space for your variables, like example age, and once you allocate memory for age, what type of data we store here? Like example 20. So a numeric value without decimal point, we call it as integer. If you go with the name, we go with collection of characters, collection of alphabets, then we call it as string. Then for allocating memory space, for example, like height. So in height, we generally store a value with a decimal point, a numeric value with a decimal point, we call it as float. So the type of data the variable is holding, this only we call data type. So how to define is like type of data a variable holds is called as data type. In Java, we are having two types. They are primitive data types and reference data types. Primitive and reference. So let us initially go with primitive data types. Let us understand using a diagram, a table, primitive types. So in Java, we are having totally 8 primitive data types. In Java, we are having 8 primitive data types. Let me list out. Data type, size, and a default value. Data type, size, and default value. Now, we are having 8 primitive data types. Starts with byte, short, char, int, long, float, double, and boolean. So these are 8 data types, and all these are keywords. So all keywords are smaller case letters in Java. Now, coming to the size. So to understand size, let us understand about a concept like declaration of variable. So when you are having variable, to store data, we require some memory space. So in order to allocate memory space for your variable, we need to declare it. So what is the need of declaration? In order to allocate memory space for variable, we need to declare the variable. The syntax of declaring variable. Syntax means the rules of language. We have to mention the data type, space, variable list, like variable 1, variable 2, like that, variable n. And every statement should end with semicolon. Like example, we'll say here int a comma b. Here a and b are what data type? Integer type. Okay. So what are integers? A numeric value without decimal pointing, even positives and negatives, zeros. Then character C. So character means a value within single quotes. Only one symbol should come within single quotes. Like examples you can see here. 245, 87, 0, minus 98 like this. Examples of characters are like a single value, a single symbol enclosed in single quotes. Enclosed in single quotes. Any symbol enclosed in single quotes, only one symbol should come. Float. So examples of floats are like a numeric value with a decimal point. A numeric value with a decimal point, positives or negatives. Right? Now, once we declare the variable A, B, C, and F, then it's going to allocate some memory space in your RAM. How much memory space it's going to allocate? That is the meaning of size over here. That's the meaning of size here. Okay. Then, now, so when you go with byte, it occupies 1 byte of memory. Byte, it occupies 1 byte. Short, 2 bytes. Character, 2 bytes. Integer, 4 bytes. Long, 8 bytes. Float, 4 bytes. Double, 8 bytes. And coming to Boolean, only 1 bit. Coming to Boolean, only 1 bit. So when you go with Boolean, in Boolean, we can store only 2 values, that is either true or false only. Either true or false only. When we say true, the internal value what it stores is 1, false means 0. So to store 1 and 0, we require 1 bit of memory. Right? And what are the size we mentioned over here related to Java? The size remains same for any platform, means either it may be 32-bit or 64-bit. The size is same here. Right? Any questions up to here?
Here now for the float, we are saving as if, for suppose I will be taking a number as 1.0. So it will be considering as a float, right?
Yeah, in a value with a decimal point is float, but we are having something also that I'll discuss. So when you go with a value with a decimal point, what it reads internally. Okay, I'll discuss that today only.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Something we are having something more discussion on float type. Okay, right. Now for now, understand a value with a decimal point is floating types. That point you remember now. Now coming to default value. So when you take C or C++ programming languages, if you are not having idea, don't worry. If you declare a variable like int n, it's going to allocate memory space for n variable. Then the value what it holds, we cannot say what value it contains. Then we call this one as garbage or unknown value. Garbage or unknown value. So we don't know what value it holds when you declare a variable in the case of C or C++. In the case of Java, if you declare a variable like int n, then it's going to allocate memory space for your n variable. It's going to allocate memory space for n, and the value what it holds. In the case of Java, if no value, since it's of type integer, it's going to store a value 0, and this we call it as default value. In the case of Java, there is no concept of garbage values. In Java, no concept of garbage values. It goes with default values. It goes with what? Default values. Then, so for all integral types, what is integral type? A value without decimal point, the default value like byte, short, int, long, the default value is 0. And for character, a single space enclosed in single quotes. And for floating types like float and double, the default value is 0.0, and for Boolean it is false. Write once again. Default values for integral types like byte, short, int, long, the default value is 0. For floating types like float, double, the default value is 0.0. For character, a single space. For Boolean, is false. So let us understand why Java people have given 4 different integral types and 2 different floating types. If you take byte, if you take a variable of type byte, in byte we can store a value between minus 128 to 127. This we call range. This we call range. So what is the range of byte? Minus 128 to 127. Minus 128 to 127. Now if I want to store a value bigger than byte range, then we go with the short. So when you go with the short, we can store a value between minus 32768 to 32767. This is the range of short. Now if I want to store a bigger value than short range, then we go with integer. If I want to store a bigger value than integer, then we go with long. Similar way, if I want to store a bigger value than float range, we go with the double. So no need to remember ranges. No one will ask you about the ranges. Now, a small question. If I want to store a value like 125, I want to store a value 125, then which data type will you prefer to use? Which data type will you prefer to use to store 125?
Byte.
Byte. We go with what? Byte. If I use long, unnecessarily 7 bytes will get wasted. So to store byte, I require 125. I require 1 byte of memory. So we go with byte. If I use long, unnecessarily the memory will get wasted. So only to save the memory, they have given different data types to us. Okay. Right. So anyone having any questions? No. Coming to reference data types, other than this 8 primitive, remaining all are reference. Like example, in Java, arrays comes under reference and classes. It can be your predefined classes or user defined classes. So any classes comes under reference type, either predefined or user defined. So when I say predefined classes, means string, system, scanner, thread, exception, array list, like this. User defined classes means our own classes like person, student, account, employee, like this. These are our own classes. So any class, whatever the class it may be, it comes under reference type. In Java, even arrays comes under reference type. So more about this we'll discuss later. Now, we are having some important points on data types. Points on data types. Default values, just now I have shown in the table, default values are applicable only to the data members of the class, not for local variables. So what is data member is, if you declare a variable inside a class, declared within class is data member. Local variable is declared within a method. Local variables are declared within a method. Let me elaborate more on this point. If you take a class sample, how to create a class in Java? Using a keyword class and the name of the class. Open and close curly braces. If you declare a variable like intm, this is your data member. Declare a variable inside a class, we call data member. Now, let us go with a method. So I'm taking a method like xxx and open and close curly braces. This is how the method looks. This we call method. Now, inside a method, if you declare any variable, then we call local variable. So other than local variables, remaining all are data members only. Now, let us print the value of local variable. How to print the value of variables in Java? System.out.println. in the document from now onwards, SOP means system.out.println used to display messages or the value of variables or both. Right? Now, to run a Java program, which method is required inside the class? To run a Java program, which method is
Main
required
method.
inside the class? Main method, right? We require main method. So here, let us go with main method. I'm writing only part of main. Then inside this main method, I'm creating object of class sample. How to create object? I said class name, object name equal to new class name. So I'm creating object of class sample. Now by using this object, if you print the value of m with the dot operator s dot m, if you print the value of m, what is the value it is going to display here? What is the value of m it's going to display?
0.
0. Very good. Default value. So no value means it takes 0. Now by using this object, if you call the method xxx, then it will jump to this method xxx. You are having a local variable and you are trying to print the value of n. So what's the value of n it's going to print now?
New value.
What value? So what is the value of n we have given here? No value, right?
0.
Then 0. But what is the point? Default values are only to data members, not for local variables. Not for local variables. So in the case of C, C++, it will go with garbage value. If no value, it takes garbage value. But in Java, it will go with error. In Java, it goes with error. And the message is local variables. Local variables. Local variable n should be initialized. Meaning, if I take any local variable without any value, and if I try to use that variable either for printing or processing, it's an error in Java. And we have to initialize it. Initialize means we should give some value to the variable before using. Before using, we should give some value to the variable. If no value to local variable, and if I'm trying to use it, it's an error in Java. This is the major point to discuss. So what is the point? Local variables need to be initialized. Every point I'll show you practically. Okay, every point I'll show practically. Okay. Memory allocation for reference data type is done during runtime using new operator. That's the reason when you are creating objects for your class, so we are using new operator. Okay. Default value for reference data type is null. So if you take any reference data type, the default value is null. Like example, if you take string s, if it is data member only, because default value is only for data members, and if you are trying to print s, it is null. So no value for data member reference type is null. So more on these 2 points we'll discuss later when we come to reference type. So any questions? No. Let us go with one more concept here, typecasting. Typecasting. What is this typecasting? It's converting from one primitive type into another primitive type. Converting from one primitive type to another primitive type, or converting from one reference type into another reference type is called as typecasting. Primitive to primitive conversion or reference to reference conversion is typecasting. So today we'll discuss on primitive only. Current two types of casting. Current two types of casting, they are implicit casting and explicit casting. Implicit and explicit. Implicit means auto conversion. We need not do anything. Let us initially understand about implicit casting. So when it applies implicit is converting lower data type into higher data type. Converting lower to higher. How to know which is lower? How to know which is higher? By seeing the sizes. So in this case, short is lower than float. Integer is lower than double, like this. So we have to see what? Sizes. Now, like example, if we take integer n equal to 100, we want to assign to long. So integer is 4 bytes, long is 8 bytes. So lower to higher. So the conversion will happen automatically. So if you print the value of x, it is 100. Now, if you take byte b equal to some 35, I want to convert into double. And to convert into double. Now, since byte is 1 byte, double 8 bytes, lower to higher, the conversion will happen. Now, if you print the value of t, it is 35.0. It's going to add decimal point dot 0. If you take character c equal to capital A, and if you are trying to convert into integer, character is 2 bytes, integer is 4 bytes. So the conversion will happen. But if you print the value of n, can anyone guess the answer? What's the value of n it's going to print?
ASCII value.
Very good. ASCII value like 65. It's going to print what here? 65. So in Java, we won't call ASCII value, we call Unicode. Java, we call Unicode of character A. When you take the programming languages like C or C++, supports ASCII codes. Supports ASCII codes, which contains 256 symbols. For every symbol you take, like alphabets like A to Z, capital A to Z, small a to Z, and even the symbols like star symbol, and symbol, slash symbol, as symbol, every symbol you take will have a numeric code. That numeric code we call ASCII codes. Then, if you take Java, .NET, PHP, Python, supports Unicodes. Supports Unicodes, which contains 65536 symbols. It goes 65536 symbols. Then ASCII codes are subset of Unicodes. Means whatever the ASCII code we are having for this 256 symbols, that value will remain same for Unicode. So this 65, you can even call it as ASCII code or Unicode. Right? Now, coming to explicit casting, what is this? Reverse way, converting higher data type into lower data type. Converting higher to lower. Like example, if you go over here, like long, x equal to 100, I want to assign to integer. Long is 8 bytes, integer is 4 bytes. So I get to lower. So if you try to do this directly, it will go with error. Don't allow you to do that. But our requirement says to convert long to integer. How to do? Int n. In between parentheses, we have to mention what type you want to convert. In between parentheses, we have to mention what type you want to convert and say x. So since you are mentioning explicitly what type you want to convert, the name has come explicit casting. Now if you print the value of n, it is 100. If you take double, d equal to 45.5, and I want to convert into short, then it goes with what? Error. Now to convert, short s equal to, in parenthesis say short and say d. Now the value of s will be, takes only decimal part 45. Fraction part is ignored. If you take integer n equal to 65, if I'm trying to assign to character, error. Then how to convert, character c equal to, in between parenthesis character and say n. If you print the value of c, it is capital A. One more good example. So when you go with a float, and if I'm storing a value with a decimal point like this, 3.14, in Java this is an error. Remember, this is an error in Java. The reason behind that is, in Java a value with a decimal point, in Java a value with a decimal point is double data type. This is double. Double is 8 bytes, float is 4 bytes. Higher to lower, not possible. So why this is error? In Java, a value with a decimal point is double data type. Is double data type. Then how to give value to float now? Float f equal to, you can say float 3.14, apply explicit casting, or float f equal to 3.14, end with a small f or capital F. With small f or capital F. So when you are going with float variable, you are, after the value, end with either small f or capital F. Right? So that's about typecasting. Any questions?
Suppose that whose value is 130 and convert by will it throw
And
error?
what value? Yeah, let us understand that. Let me show you practically about this. Okay. So,
Okay.
so in order to discuss whatever we have done the discussion, if I want to show you practically, what I have to do, I have to open Eclipse, then create a class with main method, type the code and run the code, right? These many steps we have to do. So only for simple checking, like you are having a doubt whether in byte, if I want to store a value 129, what will happen? You are having this simple doubt. Then what I should do? I have to open Eclipse, then create a class with main method, type the code, run the code. So instead of doing these many steps, only to check your small doubts, okay? So we can make use of a tool called as JShell tool. We can make use of what tool here? JShell tool. JShell tool is added in Java 9 version. What is this JShell? JShell is an interactive tool to execute the Java statements. An interactive tool to execute what? Java statements. To open JShell, open command prompt or terminal. Open command prompt or terminal, like example command prompt. We have to just use the command JShell, which will show JShell prompt to us. It will show what prompt? JShell prompt. Let me show that. Open command prompt and type the command JShell. It will show JShell prompt. Now here we can type our Java statements. Like example, I want to know about system.out.println. So go with directly the statement here. No need to create a class with main method. Just say system.out.println. Welcome to JShell. And welcome to JShell. The output immediately. If I go with the default values, what is the default value for integer? 0. Default value for double? 0.0. Default value for boolean? False. Default value for string reference type? None. Coming to typecasting, if I say integer n equal to 100, and if I try to assign to long, the conversion automatic happening. If I go with byte b equal to some 35, and if I'm assigning to double, so 35.0. If I go with character c equal to capital A, and if I want to convert into integer, what's the value of integer now? 65. Coming to explicit casting, If I go with long x equal to 100, if I'm trying to convert into integer, error. Possible loss of conversion from long to integer. Then how to go? Int n equal to, in parenthesis, say integer and say x here. Now the value of n will become 100. I go with a double, d equal to 45.5, and if I trying to ascend to short, error. How to convert? Short s equal to, in parenthesis, say short and say d. Now the value of s is 45. It takes only decimal part. If I go with integer n equal to 65, if I try to ascend to character, error. How to convert? Between parentheses char and say n. Now the value of c will be capital A. If I go with a float, a value with 3.14. In Java, a value with a 3 dot decimal point is double type. Double to float, error. Then how to give value to float? By ending with small f or capital A. So whatever I discussed up to now, I've shown you practically. Then now you are coming to your question. In byte, I'm storing a value like 129. What will happen? See the result? What it's saying? Possible loss of conversion from integer to byte. Integer to byte, because a numeric value in case of Java, it treats as integer type here. It's going to treat it as what? Integer. Now, what you have to do to solve this? Typecasting. So, byte b equal to, say a byte and say 129. Then, what is the value of b now? What's the value of b? Minus 127. It's going to store what value now? Minus 127. So, what is the meaning here? Understand? What is the range of byte? Minus 128 to 127. Right? Now, if I store a value like 128, then this will become minus 128. It will store as minus 128. If I store 129, then after minus 128, what is our next value? Minus 127. 130 means minus 126, like this. Got it now? Your question? Reverse, it goes like this. It is going to go like this. Okay, when you cross the range, it will become negative values. Clear your question? Yeah. Shiva Kumar, you asked a question at the beginning.
Yes, it's clear.
Your question is clear now?
Yes.
Okay. So what was your question? Can you know? Because I did not hear you properly at that time.
Let's for suppose I'm just writing a method. Okay, in this method, and we'll be writing any X statement like that. As in your tutorial, you are told that areas equal to length into this.
Okay.
So this area will be. So for suppose I'm returning these parameters like in integer, right? So for suppose in a this consider in a real time concept, like in the same method, I want to print get a text or string and float and integer. So what could be the return type for that?
No, it's not possible.
Okay, in a single method only one return type should be
A
there,
method
right?
can return only one value. A method can return only one value. So if I want to return multiple values, then we have to store it into a collection object. We have to store it into an object which holds your integer, float, and string. Then you have to return that object. The return type should be an object type now. Okay? Right? So using a return statement, I can return only one value. So value can be a primitive type or even it can be reference type. So when I say reference type, it can go with classes, and when I go with object, it can hold multiple data. Okay? Like for example, if you take here a method like get person details. Get person details where I'm returning, you're having a person object, with some values. So what we do, return P here, return P. But this P holds what values? It is holding the person ID, person name, and age.
Okay.
Having three values. It's having three values. So I'm returning object. So here the return type should be person here. The return type what I should write person. Okay. Right? We play with objects when you want to manage multiple different type of data. But after
Okay.
return, I should have only one variable here, only one variable. So I cannot pass multiple variables over here. Not possible. Like P comma, P1 comma, not possible. This is not possible. Only one variable should be there after return. Okay. So we'll discuss more on this type of coding also later. Okay.
For suppose I'm just on the runtime, I'm just picking in a string. For the string, is it possible that can I pick for the 2 times?
Yes, it's up to you. You can call the method multiple times.
Okay. No, the
Okay. Or you go with
point what I'm
arrays.
saying now.
Arrays. You have to use arrays. So when you return array can have multiple string data.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So here if you go with a string of names where it holds some names. So here we go with array of names. Then here what you have to return names here. Then the return type will become string array.
String.
Got it?
Okay.
Right. So we did not enter into the programming yet. So don't worry too much on this part now. Okay. So once we start writing the programs, we'll do a lot of examples and methods also. Okay.
Okay.
Now how to come out of JSON? How to come out of JSON? /exit. /exit will come out of JSON. Displays the output. Welcome to JSON. To exit, get your JSON prompt. That's a /exit. It will show drive the terminal or command prompt back to us. Okay. Right. So that's about today's part. And tomorrow we'll be going with the new topic, operators and scanner class. So once we discuss scanner class, we'll write some programs using scanner class, and even I'll start giving assignments to you from tomorrow onwards.
Raj, Renuka here.
Yeah, yes, Renuka.
Uh, Today class, it's completely confusing for me. Sorry to say
Okay,
this.
no worries, no worries. So what you do is you recap it once again. Just today's class, you go through once again, watch the recording before you join tomorrow's class. Again, you can, if you're having some questions, please ask me. The topic what we discussed
Y-
is simple basic terms only.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct. Yeah.
where you are getting confused, try to identify that, and you put that query to me. I can elaborate more on that to you. Okay, Renuka.
Okay, thank you, Raj.
Recap it. Just recap. If you are totally new to this, no, you have to do compulsory recap. If you recap again and again, the things will become easy for you. And as we start writing the programs, the things will become like ABCs. Whatever we are discussing now, this will become like ABCs finally for us. Okay,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Thank you, Raj.
Yeah, don't worry. 1 or 2 days, just 1 or 2 days it takes for you to start writing programs to understand the concepts. Okay,
Okay.
thank you all. Thank you.